Welcome back to my channel, it's Joanna, and today I want to talk about hypnobirthing and pregnancy and why I found it really helpful. For a little bit of context, I gave birth about a year ago to a little baby boy called Harris. I had an induction. If you want to see more about that, I did make a video about the induction, my birth story, how I felt about it, what happened. So if you want to know about that, feel free to find it on my channel. I had a few comments on that video talking about how people are getting their own inductions and how they're worried or scared about it. I've been replying to some of the comments, basically just trying to instill some confidence in women about their induction and trying to remind them that they should have control in whatever sort of birth that they have. And it made me realise that I never talked about the fact that I did a hypnobirthing course. Hypnobirthing is basically just a technique or a sort of education that women and their partners can receive to basically just empower them and educate them and relax them about the whole childbirthing process. So what I mean by that is that you'll go to a hypnobirthing class and you will learn pretty detailed stuff about the process of giving birth. So like all the different stages of giving birth, what's happening in your body, your own physiology, all the hormones. It teaches you about relaxation techniques, it teaches you about breathing techniques. And your hypnobirthing teacher, they're normally some sort of like midwife or doula or something like that. And they should walk you through all the different types of birth and all the options of like pain relief and all these things that you have at your disposal. When you go to a hypnobirthing course, they've got sort of three main principles. The first is basically outlining all of the physiological changes that happen to your body just before labour and throughout labour. Another principle is that by educating yourself about what happens in birth and all of the pain relief and all these sorts of things, that it reduces fear and therefore it breaks the fear cycle. So the tension that was stored within your body when you get really scared, that can dissipate and you can have more control over your body. And lastly, it kind of ties in is breathing techniques and ways to stay calm during labour. The reason why I chose to do hypnobirthing is because I've seen quite a lot of people do it and talk about it. I didn't really know much about what it was though. When I had researched it online, I found that there was one person that was doing it fairly near me. She was a midwife and she really wanted to drill home the science of hypnobirthing. It kind of can have this like idea that it's a bit wheezy woozy and a bit kooky, but actually she was really keen on drilling home the science and the biology behind it. Now I'm not going to give you a free hypnobirthing course because I'm not qualified, I don't really know my stuff enough, but basically it's all hormones at play. If you are scared, your body really tenses up and you release something called like cortisol, and everything that you feel is going to be really heightened and you're really going to struggle to let go. When you're in labour, you really need to just get the good, happy feelings going. Basically, when you're giving birth, you have contractions, which are caused by oxytocin. Oxytocin is like a love, happy hormone. So you need to be as relaxed and as happy as possible to make those contractions as easy as possible and to reduce as much pain as possible. When I went, she talked all about the physiology of birth, and then she went on to talk about all of the scenarios that may well happen. So the different types of birth that you might have, so like vaginal, C-section, home birth, instrumental births, and the different places that you can give birth. So you can give birth at home, give birth in hospital or a birthing centre. And she talked about like the pros and cons of every single decision. She also talked about all the different pain relief and what happens after. So when you give birth to your placenta, all these things she covered, and it basically really empowered me to know what was happening within my own body when the process was going on, but also really empowered me because then I knew what I wanted to happen. So this is kind of my biggest piece of advice is if you are going to be giving birth, whether it's a natural birth, an induction or a C-section, whatever it is, if you know that you're going to give birth, you need to make a birth plan. And our birth plan basically is just talking about all the ways that you want to give birth, the pain relief that you want to have, who do you want in the room, what music do you want playing, if you want like a pool birth, like what positions do you want to be in, all these sorts of things you would write in a birth plan to basically give to your midwife, and then they know what the boundaries are and what you're wanting, expecting. Ultimately, it's your birth. It's you bringing someone into the world. So your midwives want you to be as happy and relaxed as possible. So they will do whatever they can to facilitate that. The hypnobirthing instructor, when I went, she's basically saying the most important thing is to not only make a birth plan, but to make 3. Now, the reason why you want to make 3, you want birth plan A, the one that goes according to plan. Everything is easy. Giving birth, oh, no problem. You push for like 10 minutes and then you're done, right? Nice and easy. You got no stitches. Life is a dream. You get birth plan B, which is like here are my compromises. Okay, if I really need to get an epidural, if I really need to get forceps, then maybe I would accept that, but I'd rather not. And then you have birth plan number C, which is worst case, the things I do not want to happen. Now, the reason why I think this is really important is because it gives you the chance to process what could happen in the best outcome, the most likely outcome, and the worst outcome that you are anxious about. This is important because you need to know what could happen if you give birth. So if you're getting an induction, for example, like I did, when you get an induction, the risk of C-section, the risk of instrumental birth, the risk of, we know when you get cut, episiotomy, all these sorts of things, all the risk of complications increase if it's not a natural birth. I had always said from when I found out that I was pregnant that I did not want an induction. That was my worst case scenario. About a week before I gave birth, they advised that I had an induction. Now, in retrospect, I don't think that it was a particularly valid reason to give me an epidural, to give me an induction. However, I kind of wanted that even done with, to be honest, and I actually found that it went really well. But then I basically did loads of research into it. They offered me a method of induction called Dilapan, and because they had told me the method that they're going to use and the step-by-step procedures, I could then educate myself, and I felt a lot more comfortable consenting to this method of birth because I'd educated myself. I knew what was likely to happen, how it might feel. My biggest advice is to educate yourself because then you know what is likely to happen. If you're going in not knowing what the biggest risks are, i.e. an emergency C-section, you're going to be scared. You're going to go into that theatre and you're going to be terrified. And that can lead to a lot of birth trauma, PTSD, and then that's much more likely to lead to then like postnatal depression and stuff. So it's so important that you know your plan A, B, and C. When you go through certain different types of the birth process, for example, there's a part called transition. I highly recommend you research the transition. The transition is basically when you are fully dilated and you're about to push baby out. You're about to give birth and you have an intense fear that you cannot do it. I got that and I said I need an epidural, did not want to do it. And that was my turning point of like, everything I had written in birth plan A flipped on its head. I'll get an epidural. I got an epidural, and let me tell you, it made the whole thing a lot easier. Now, this wasn't actually a bad thing for me. I felt, when I started to feel these feelings of like out of control and fear, I knew that that was a biological process. So mentally, I could compartmentalize the physiology of what was happening. And I knew that there was a logical reason why I was feeling absolute fear. And I was really focusing then on myself and my body in the moment. So I would just like try and take my focus deep within myself and just feel the contraction and just kind of get through it. And that's what hypnobirthing gave me, was loads of education, which is so important. It gave me control over my birth plan and my birth story. And it also allowed me to find all these meditation and breathing techniques to try and help me stay calm in the moment when I was obviously most vulnerable. If you are going to be giving birth anytime soon, even if you don't get a hypnobirthing class, I know it's expensive. Do some research online. If you want to know more, let me know in the comments and I can just sort of say roughly what you should be Googling. But there's loads of information out there for free, if you know what to search, that can really help you. And I do believe that if more people had hypnobirthing, there'd probably be fewer inductions, fewer C-sections, and probably actually less birth trauma, because people would feel a lot more autonomy and control over their pregnancy and their labour. They would probably say no to things like unnecessary inductions or C-sections, and they'd maybe even have more positive experiences. So that's sort of my experience, but how it can help you explicitly is that it can give you flexibility and control. So if you make a few different types of birth plans, you know what all your options are. You are then flexible in the moment to change your birth plan because you know that you say want a home birth, it doesn't go according to plan, you can expect that. It can also really help you feel a sense of calm and confidence when you're giving birth because you know what's going on. Start feeling like you can't do it. You know that that is a normal biological thing that basically means that baby's going to be here in the next like half an hour, and that's exciting. And that you know that through breathing techniques or having like a playlist or your partner supporting you, that you know that you can get through it. Hypnobirthing is also really helpful for any type of birth. This isn't just your natural home births, unmedicated, with a partner there rubbing your back. That's not it. Like, maybe that's the dream, right, for loads of people. But the reality is that actually hypnobirthing is probably more important for the people that are going in for inductions, medical births, or having your instrumental things, anything where basically it isn't optimal. I think it's so important because it allows you to know what is happening. You can then choose your options and say no to things, because let me tell you, you do not have to do anything that those midwives or consultants are telling you that you maybe should. For example, if you're in labour and you are not having a nice time, you do not have to have an examination down there. I refused them until I was pushing my baby out, because I could not stand the idea of someone being down there when it was not very nice. I had had enough poking and prodding from the dial-pan insertion and the slightly traumatic removal. I didn't want anyone right down there. So you can say no. To round this off, let's just talk a few practical tips that might help you if you are going to look into hypnobirthing. Some breathing techniques. Now, this can literally just be like, I don't know, in for 3, out for 3, just deep breaths and slow exhales. Whatever works for you. There are loads of different techniques. Basically, this is good because it is scientifically shown to calm your brain down. That's really important when it comes to like stress release, cortisol release. You don't want any negativity in your body. You want to zen that all out. Another practical tip is to make like a music playlist. All the songs that you like pump you up, make you feel happy, you get those tunes on. You best believe I had all my country music play, and I'm a country loving gal. The playlist I had actually made was very zen, very beautiful, very, I love my baby, I'm going to watch you grow up, and I love being a mummy. Nah, you want the party tunes. Another top tip is to make like 3 different birth plans, and even if you can, to go through them with your community midwife when you have your 2 weekly appointments. In the later stages, go through it with a midwife and explain what you want and what are the options if you're not sure. And lastly, either pay for a hypnobirthing class, go to the free NHS antenatal courses near you. They're nowhere near as detailed, but they do kind of touch on a few important things. And also just do some research, type in hypnobirthing, go on like ChatGPT and say, what is hypnobirthing? What should I know about the physiology of birth? What will help me? And it will tell you everything that you need to know. If you found this helpful, please do give it a like. Comment down below. Do you have any questions? Do you want me to sort of give you some pointers on where to research? Do you want any more advice? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to stick around, I make loads of content about motherhood. I also used to be a teacher, so I'm quite interested in making like mum education content as well. So if there's anything that you want to see from me, please let me know. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later.